You stand there, frozen in grief, staring at the casket. The world kept moving, but you didn't. Most people think grief fades with time, but the truth, time doesn't heal, it just hides. You're rooted to the spot, unable to move, staring at the polished wooden casket resting at the front of the chapel. You feel like you're watching it all happen to someone else, though here's the thing, you're not. Grief doesn't make you weak, it shows you your strength. The rain taps against the stained glass windows, the scent of lilies fill the air, thick and cloying, clinging to your skin like a second layer you can't shed. Everyone around you thinks you're coping, yet deep down, you know that isn't true. You're not broken, you're just buried under it all. People murmur soft condolences, but their words drift past you like smoke, impossible to hold on to. You don't need their words, you need a way out of this fog. You feel like a guest in your own life, watching it unfold from a distance, powerless to stop the sinking sensation in your gut. To some, grief is just sadness. However, grief is about rediscovery. Grounded in grief, you ask yourself, how do you even begin to live in a world where she no longer exists? The funeral fades into memory almost as soon as it ends, leaving behind a haunting stillness. You sit in the car on the drive home, your left hand limp in your lap, the city blurring past the windows like an old movie reel you have no interest in watching. Each familiar street feels foreign now, tainted by her absence. You ask yourself, if every place you shared with her now carries the sting of loss, how will you ever find a place to call your own again? At home, the silence is deafening. You stand in the doorway of the living room, staring at Anne's favorite chair, the delicate teal cardigan she draped over it still hanging there as if she might return at any moment. Teal was her favorite color. The house feels like a shrine you're afraid to disturb, a museum of your old life where each object bears witness to your grief. Are you preserving her memory, you wonder? Or are you trapping yourself in the past, afraid to take even a single step forward without her? Your sons, David and John, move carefully around you, speaking in hushed tones, glancing at you with a mixture of worry and helplessness. They offer to stay the night, to cook, to sit with you, but their presence feels too heavy, a reminder of what you've lost rather than a comfort. Part of you wants to scream, to break something, just to feel alive again, but you remain still, trapped between the need to grieve and the fear of drowning in it. How do you even ask for help when you don't even know what you need? Life before the funeral had been simple, steady, and blessed with a kind of quiet joy you hadn't fully appreciated until now. You and Anne built a life together piece by piece. Early morning walks to the local park, days filled with the rhythm of work and companionship, evenings spent laughing at terrible television shows no one else seemed to enjoy. The simple routines you shared were sacred, stitched into the fabric of your daily existence. How could you have ever known that these small, everyday moments would one day be the memories you'd cling to the hardest? Anne was the one who dreamed beyond the familiar streets of Cardiff. She would often sit at the kitchen table, tracing imaginary routes on travel brochures, her eyes lighting up at the thought of Paris, the art, the pastries, the feeling of being somewhere utterly new. You always nodded and promised, one day, love, thinking there would always be enough time. Now, you sit at that same table, staring at her neatly folded maps and handwritten notes, wondering, Why do we so often postpone the dreams that matter most, believing we have forever? Even now, with your past bus routes long behind you and retirement granting you all the free time you once craved, you find yourself paralyzed. The days stretch endlessly, the minutes dragging their feet, each one a reminder that you are alone. You brew 2 cups of tea out of habit, set 2 places at the table, catch yourself turning to share a thought with her. How much of who you were was tied to being her partner, her companion, her home? Without her, who are you? It happens unexpectedly. One quiet Sunday afternoon, David and John arrive without warning, their faces set with a determination you can't quite place. They sit you down, speak carefully but firmly about how proud Mum would be of you, how she would have wanted you to keep living, not just existing. They bring out a carefully wrapped envelope. Inside, a plane ticket to Paris, an open-ended trip you can take whenever you're ready. Their voices crack slightly as they tell you it's time to honor her dream. But how can you move forward when the very idea of change feels like betrayal? You hold the ticket in your hands, the thin paper foreign against your calloused fingers. It feels heavier than it should, burdened with expectation and love and fear all at once. Paris, her dream, your promise. Could you really go without her? Would standing beneath the Eiffel Tower feel like triumph or failure? You sit there grappling with a surge of emotions rising in your chest, asking yourself, are you brave enough to carry her dreams forward when she no longer can? That night, sleep eludes you. You stare at the ceiling, the darkness pressing in from all sides, the sound of the clock ticking louder with each passing second. Your mind wrestles with the possibilities, the terror of stepping into the unknown without her hand in yours. What if you go and it only deepens the ache? What if it is the beginning of a renewed sense or purpose? At what point does grief stop being a cage and start becoming a bridge to something beyond the pain? The next morning, you place the ticket carefully in the drawer by your bedside and pretend it doesn't exist. Paris is a nice idea, you tell yourself, but not now. Maybe not ever. You busy yourself with tasks, tidying the garden, sorting old papers, fixing things that don't truly need fixing. You cling to the illusion of productivity, convincing yourself that healing comes from staying rooted. Isn't it safer to live in the known sorrow than risk the terror of an unfamiliar future? When friends call to check in, you brush off their invitations with polite refusals. I'm fine, you say, the words automatic, meaningless. You avoid the corners of the house that hurt the most, the sewing room where Anne spent hours, the bookshelf filled with her favorite novels. You retreat deeper into routine, afraid to confront the gaping hole in your life. If grief is the price of love, you wonder, is it better to stay steeped in sorrow than to risk forgetting? Late one night, alone in the dim kitchen, you catch sight of the envelope peeking out from the drawer. It feels almost alive, humming with quiet insistence. You close the drawer quickly, heart hammering in your chest. Is it cowardice that holds you back? Or is it loyalty to the life you shared? And if you don't take the journey, what else might you lose along the way? David and John return the following weekend, their arms full of takeaway boxes and determined smiles. They settle into the living room like it's a mission, chattering about their own lives, David's new promotion, John's latest music gig, weaving their stories around you, pulling you slowly back into the world. It feels awkward at first, as though you're a guest at their celebration, but beneath it all, you sense the truth. They are trying to show you there is still life to be lived. You find yourself wondering, when did you stop believing there was anything left for you? Later, after the laughter fades and the dishes are cleared, David sits across from you, leaning forward with a seriousness that cuts through the evening haze. He talks about how Anne once confided in him, about her fears of being forgotten, her hopes that you would find joy even if she couldn't be there to see it. His voice wavers as he speaks, but he holds your gaze. She wanted you to live, Dad. Not just survive. You feel the weight of his words settle deep inside, like dusk swallowing the last light. Can you honor her memory by daring to step into the unknown? John, quieter but no less fierce, hands you a notebook filled with Anne's scribbles, her travel dreams, lists of museums and cafes she wanted to visit. The ink is smudged in places, her excitement practically bleeding off the pages. As you flip through it, your chest constricts. Her dreams weren't meant to be buried with her. Maybe, just maybe, they were meant to be carried forward by you. How do you separate the grief of her absence from the beauty of her aspirations? That night, after your sons leave, you sit at the kitchen table long after the house has gone still. Anne's notebook lies open before you, a map of possibilities drawn in her looping handwriting. You trace her words with your fingertip, feeling a strange mix of sorrow and hope stirring inside. Could it be that by chasing her dreams, you might find a way to heal? And if so, what would it mean to let yourself believe in hope again? The next morning, you wake with a sense of unease that borders on urgency. You open the drawer, take out the envelope, and set the ticket on the table where the morning light can catch it. The rays of dawn waltz across the page like memories brushing the edge of a dream. It feels momentous, the simple act of looking at it openly instead of hiding it away. You realize that acknowledging the pain is its own kind of bravery. Can facing grief directly become the first step toward reclaiming your life? You call the travel agency listed on the itinerary David had prepared, your voice trembling slightly as you confirm a tentative departure date. As you hang up the phone, a cold wave of fear sweeps over you. What if you're not ready? What if Paris is too big, too full of reminders that she isn't there to share it with you? The questions consume you, but beneath the fear, something else stirs, a fragile thread of anticipation. Can fear and excitement live side by side? You start small by packing a bag days ahead, choosing the worn leather satchel Anne had gifted you on your retirement. As you fold clothes and tuck away small essentials, you find yourself smiling at a memory of Anne fussing over packing lists, agonizing over what scarf would match best the Parisian air. The memories no longer feel like open wounds. They are becoming stitches that hold you together. Could it be that healing doesn't mean letting go, but carrying her with you in new ways? On the day of the departure, you stand at the threshold of your front door, suitcase in hand, heart pounding in your chest. You pause, turning back to glance at the house, your fortress, your prison, your sanctuary. You whisper a soft goodbye to the walls that have both sheltered and confined you. Then you step outside into the crisp air, feeling something break loose inside you. A tether snapping, or maybe the wings of a sacred promise beginning to unfurl. Are you ready to see what waits beyond your grief? The airport is overwhelming. A sea of strangers, announcements blurring in languages you barely recognize, the press of bodies all moving at dizzying speeds. You clutch your ticket tightly, feeling like a fraud among so many purposeful travelers. Doubt creeps in, whispering that this was a mistake. You fight the urge to turn back, to vanish into the crowd. Why does courage feel so much like fear? On the plane, you sit stiffly by the window, hands clenched into fists on your lap. A young couple sits beside you, laughing softly, sharing earbuds to watch a movie together. Their intimacy stings unexpectedly, a mirror held up to everything you've lost. You close your eyes, breathing through the ache. It's okay to feel the grief, you remind yourself. It's okay to hurt. Can you allow yourself the space to feel without letting it consume you? Arriving in Paris, you are hit by a rush of sensations. The sharp scent of coffee and pastry, the bustle of taxi horns and murmured French, the sight of old stone buildings rising like sentinels against the sky. Everything is vibrant, alive, almost too much. You check into a modest hotel tucked down a quiet street, grateful for the calm. Alone in your room, you let the silence wrap around you like a familiar blanket. How do you begin building new memories when your heart still aches for the old ones? The days blur as you stumble through the city, visiting landmarks Anne had circled in her notebook. The Louvre, the Seine, the charming bookshops. Some moments feel exhilarating, others almost unbearable. You start keeping a journal, recording small victories, navigating the metro, ordering a meal in broken French, smiling at a stranger. Each entry feels like a lifeline, a quiet promise to yourself. I am still here. I am still trying. How often do we forget that survival itself is an act of profound courage? One afternoon, you find yourself standing at the foot of the Eiffel Tower, just as Anne had dreamed. The iron lattice rises impossibly high, cutting against the grey Parisian sky. Tourists buzz around you, snapping photos, laughing, living. You stay rooted in place, heart hammering, feeling her absence more sharply than ever. This was supposed to be your shared moment. Now, it's just you, in the silence of solitude, with a question that stirs your soul. Can you allow this moment to be beautiful, even without her? You clutch Anne's notebook in your hand, flipping it open to the page where she had written, "Eiffel Tower at sunset, a must." Her handwriting is so vivid, so full of life, that for a heartbeat, you can almost hear her voice teasing you. Tears prick at the corner of your eyes. Would she be proud of you for coming? Or would she ache for your loneliness? You wonder, is this what honoring love looks like? Standing bravely inside your pain, rather than running from it? Finding a bench nearby, you sit and simply breathe. You let the ache wash over you without fighting it, without rushing to fix it. Grief pulses through in waves, sorrow for what was lost, gratitude for what was shared, fear for what lies ahead. You hold all of it in your chest, letting the emotions coexist without judgment. Could it be that healing isn't about choosing happiness over sadness, but allowing both to have a place in your heart? As the sun dips low, and the tower begins to glow, you feel something inside you shift. You are still broken, still aching, but you are here. You made it, and somehow that feels like a victory. You realize that Anne's dream wasn't just about seeing Paris, it was about embracing life in all its messy, imperfect glory. Sitting there, you whisper a promise to her and to yourself. I will not let grief be the end of my story. Could it be that the real journey is not about leaving grief behind, but about carrying love forward? The next day, everything crashes down. Waking up alone in a strange bed, in a strange city, you are overwhelmed by an oppressive loneliness that feels heavier than anything you've experienced before. The walls of the hotel room seem to close in on you. In this unfamiliar room, surrounded by unfamiliar walls, in this unfamiliar land, panic rises like a tide, stealing your breath. Was this all a mistake? Are you foolish for thinking you could outrun sorrow, even for a moment? You pace the room, your mind spiraling. You think about the life you left behind in Cardiff, the comfort of routine, the familiarity of your grief. Here, there are no safety nets, no predictable days. You are adrift in a sea of strangers, and Anne is still gone. She was your lighthouse, your beacon of light that steered through your darkest hours. The weight of it threatens to crush you. Why did you believe that a different setting would ease the ache in your chest? Collapsing onto the bed, you clutch Anne's notebook to your chest like a lifeline. You flip through its pages, searching for something, anything that will anchor you. You find a small scribbled note tucked between 2 pages. Remember, love, adventure is just courage in disguise. The tears come hot and fast, overwhelming and cleansing. How often do we mistake pain for failure, forgetting that survival is its own kind of triumph? You lie there for hours, letting yourself grieve fully, openly, without shame. For once, you do not try to silence the sorrow or hide the hurt. You simply exist within it, honoring the depth of your love by allowing yourself to feel its absence fully. In the rawness of that moment, a small truth flickers to life. You are still here, and there is still more life ahead. Can embracing the pain also open the door to healing? The next morning, something has shifted. The grief is still there, yes, it always will be, but it no longer feels like a chain dragging you under, anchoring you to this solitary moment in time. Instead, it feels like a thread connecting you back to Anne, to the life you shared, to the strength she always saw in you. As you sip coffee in a bustling cafe, you find yourself smiling genuinely for the first time in what feels like forever. Is it possible that joy can live alongside sorrow? You spend the days wandering the narrow streets, finding hidden gardens and tiny bookshops that Anne would have adored. Every discovery feels like a conversation with her, a shared secret whispered through time. You realize that honoring her memory doesn't mean living in sadness. It means embracing the wonder she saw in the world. Could living fully be the greatest tribute that you can offer her love? You strike up a conversation with a kind shopkeeper who recommends a quiet, family-owned restaurant nearby. Following their suggestion, you step into a small, warmly lit place tucked away from the busy streets. A few diners speak in hushed tones over shared meals, the clink of cutlery soft and steady. You take a seat by the window and let the stillness settle around you. For the first time, you don't feel like a ghost haunting your own life. You are part of the world again, gently stitched back into its fabric. How often do we forget that healing doesn't mean forgetting the past? It means weaving it into the story of who we are becoming. That evening, you stand once again beneath the Eiffel Tower, this time with a heart that feels just a little lighter. The light shimmers against the night sky, and you feel Anne's presence, not as a painful absence, but as a quiet companion. You close your eyes and whisper, "Thank you. Thank you for the love, for the memories, for giving me the courage to keep going." And you wonder, if love can survive death, what else might be possible? Your last few days in Paris pass in a kind of dreamlike clarity. You visit the places Anne had longed to see, not out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to share them with her spirit. You take photos, write postcards to yourself, jot down memories in your journal. Each small act feels sacred, a new stitch into the tapestry of your life. Could it be that moving forward doesn't mean moving on, but carrying the past with grace? You visit a small art museum Anne had circled in her notebook, a place far off the tourist track, filled with impressionist paintings bathed in soft golden light. As you move from canvas to canvas, you feel an overwhelming sense of connection to the artists, to Anne, to the infinite thread of human experience. Grief, you realize, is not a barrier between you and the world. It is a bridge that binds you to every soul who has ever loved and lost. How might your pain also be a source of profound empathy? At a cafe nearby, you strike up a conversation with an elderly couple traveling from Italy. They remind you of you and Anne, their easy laughter, the way they finish each other's sentences. Instead of shrinking from their happiness, you find yourself leaning into it, celebrating it. You realize that love is not a finite resource. It expands, it echoes, it calls you back to life again and again. How might you honor Anne not by mourning her absence, but by choosing connection, joy, and love? As you pack your suitcase for the flight home, you feel a bittersweet mixture of sadness and gratitude. Paris was never meant to erase your grief. It was meant to show you that life, even in its rawest, most broken form, is still worth living. You take one last look out of the window at the Parisian skyline, whispering a promise to the night. "I will live, Anne. I will live for both of us." Could it be that this act of choosing life is the true end of your journey? Returning to Cardiff, you brace yourself for the familiar ache of absence, the empty house, the silent rooms. But somehow, something is different now. The grief is still there, yes, but it no longer holds dominion over you. It walks beside you like an old companion, a reminder of the love you were lucky enough to know. Could it be that grief is not a wound to be healed, but a story to be honored? You slowly start rejoining the rhythms of life. Phone calls and catch-ups with old friends, long walks through the parks Anne loved, Sunday dinners with David and John. You share stories of Paris, of the ways you found her spirit lingering in the sunlit streets and crowded cafes. With every word, you feel yourself reclaiming a part of your voice. How many stories do we carry within us, waiting for the courage to be told? One afternoon, you decide to leave the car at home and take a bus ride out of nostalgia. It reminds you of the countless routes you once drove. You sit by the window, watching the city move past, alive and messy and beautiful. You realize that while the seasons of life changes, while the people we love may leave us, something unbreakable remains: the capacity to love, to grieve, to hope. Could this be the true measure of a life well lived? As the bus rounds a corner, you catch sight of the old library where you and Anne had first met. You smile, feeling her laughter echo faintly in your heart. She's not gone. Not entirely. She lives in you, in your memories, your choices, your willingness to keep living. Could it be that death ends a life, but not a relationship? Months later, you find yourself hosting a small gathering at home. Friends, family, laughter spilling into the quiet spaces that once felt so hollow. You move through the rooms with ease, carrying plates of food, refilling drinks, smiling genuinely. The house feels different now, not a mausoleum of the past, but a living testament to love, resilience, and rebirth. Could it be that the greatest gift of grief is the deeper appreciation for every fleeting, precious moment? David and John pull you aside before dessert, handing you a framed photo, you standing beneath the Eiffel Tower, smiling up into the dusk. Beneath the image, a simple inscription: for Mum and for life. You hold it carefully, feeling tears prick your eyes, not just for what you lost, but for all you still have. How might you continue honoring Anne's spirit in the way you live, love, and lead others? Later, after everything is gone, you sit by the window, the photo resting on the table beside you. You remember that young couple you asked to take that picture. You realize you have not moved on. You have just moved forward, carrying Anne's love like a compass. There will always be hard days, but now you face them with a heart that knows sorrow and chooses joy anyway. How might choosing hope, again and again, be the most radical act of love there is? Outside, the city lights twinkle like stars scattered across the earth. You raise your glass in a silent toast to Anne, to love, to the incredible, messy, beautiful gift of still being here. And you whisper to the night, thank you. I will keep living. I will keep loving. Always. In life, we all face struggles, but that does not mean we are alone in them. By learning to harness your own inner strength, you too can overcome self-doubt and triumph over adversity. If you've ever faced a similar battle, know that you are not alone. You are part of a shared journey. Feel free to share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help others feel seen and understand that there is always hope, even in the darkest of places. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated with the modern hero's journey. Thank you for listening.